Hello and welcome back to The Drag Detective, where today we are going to be talking a little bit about season 16, but mostly about how two of its already eliminated contestants have kind of broken a little curse within the Drag Race franchise. Now, there's already so many videos and Reddit threads about first eliminated queens on Drag Race, who are the best, who are the worst, blah, blah, blah. The first eliminated is usually remembered because they were the first out. Everyone's gonna remember, oh, that queen went home first. Irene Dubois, she went home first. There's always a sort of for lack of a better word, pity, but that pity is a door for opportunity for that first out to then change people's expectations, prove what they really are made of, all of those things. There's so much actually going for a first eliminated queen on Drag Race. You know what position really sucks? Going home second or third, going home super early, but not having that distinction of being the first one, where everyone is gonna be oh, but she's so good because of this, or she's so good because of this. Oh, and oh, she went home first, but because there's not this distinction that's gonna set you apart. You're just second out, third out. You're not the pork chop queen of the season is. Sadly, our first eliminated of the season is. You're literally just cannon fodder kind of early on in the season. You're in a couple of episodes, but not many. And you don't have that distinction that's going to make people remember you as well as people who are out first or fourth or fifth. Going home second and third, I think, is probably the worst position to be in if you go on Drag Race. But that is not the case this season, where back-to-back two fan favorites went home second and third on season 16. And I already know these queens are going to be just fine. I'm not worried about their careers. I'm not worried about them being forgotten. None of that. I think these queens are going to be staples and fixtures of the Drag Race franchise for years to come, honestly. As long as they are able to milk the fruit. Milk? When they say you're gonna milk it, milk the udder of what they've been given. And that is a mandatory meeting and Mirage. Now, I'm unspoiled this season. I have no idea what's to come. I have no idea what all the placements are going to be, who's going to go home when. And I kind of guessed that Amanda was going to go home earlier. I think because the edit was dunking on her so hard in that first episode. But then she was kind of getting this redemption, underdog arc, and I was oh, maybe she actually could make it far. Then I was maybe she's a 7th placer, 8th place, middle of the pack, but she has a redemption arc, so they want to give her this moment. No, she went home third. And for Mirage, I guess I just never really thought about her as an early out. I think because people were so in love with her, it never crossed my mind that Mirage would go home as early as she did. And I think that that's part of the reason why they're so beloved right now, is because they don't have that early out energy. Not to be mean, not saying anything about some of these queens outside of the show, but some people you see on screen and you're I don't think you're long for this season. Maybe not because your drag isn't great, but maybe it's just because your personality isn't there. You're not giving on camera, things like that. Also, you keep having to fix my hair. It's a hair washing day. And it's, the day you wash your hair is just it's over with, so whatever. So today we're gonna go through all of the second and third outs on Drag Race, the US only, and see where this curse kind of started and if Mirage and Amanda are the only ones to break the curse. Starting out all the way back on season 1, the first person that we're gonna talk about is someone who the curse does not affect. The curse doesn't exist at this point. We're talking about Tammy Brown. So Tammy Brown obviously is a star, is an icon of the franchise, but is just someone who is too zany for the mold that Drag Race kind of forces you to go into. She's one of those queens that's not going to, put her creative liberties on the line to try and fit the mold of Drag Race. And that led to her going home second. But she is so beloved. She's toured with Trixie Mattel. She has her own show. She has albums and music. And Tammy's one of those queens that will forever just be loved because there's no one else like Tammy Brown. There's queens who are sort of inspired. You could see where the Tammy-isms kind of can bleed into their drag, but there's no one that is actually like Tammy Brown. So Tammy Brown, curse doesn't affect. It doesn't hit yet. The curse, I think, actually starts with the next queen eliminated on season 1, a third out, lip-synced for the first 3 episodes that she was in, Akasha. Now, I actually have like a weird relationship to Akasha because we were former coworkers. She works, I'm not gonna like dox her, but she works at a place that I worked at here in Cleveland, Ohio. And so I got to know her a little bit when we worked together. That's just like a weird fact that like of all the queens I ever could have like known in person, it's fucking Akasha, the OG lip sync assassin herself. Now, Akasha is one of the forgotten queens of Drag Race. And, you know, I'm going to be talking about some queens in this video that, no, they might not have made it on Drag Race, but a lot of them are still doing just fine, like in their local scene. Some of them still travel. Some of them go to DragCon and all of these things. But when it comes to the juggernaut of Drag Race, a lot of these queens' names don't really come up much. And that's okay. Not everyone can be a superstar of the franchise. And that's not taking away anything from their drag. That's not taking anything away from their talents. It's just what they did on Drag Race was not as memorable as what some other people did on Drag Race. We'll say that. And Akasha gave us some iconic lip syncs. She's the first queen to fall on the runway. She's the first queen to win a lip sync, like legit. Like she's the first queen to lip sync twice in a row and 3 times in a row. So she's pretty iconic, but like she just hasn't, I think, kept up with drag as much. I like don't know if she actually gigs a lot here in Cleveland. I don't think she does. I never see her on any posters or anything like that. So she's definitely still here. I can tell you that, but I don't think she's doing drag much, if at all. The next 2 queens also kind of fall into this territory of the curse, with Nicole Paige Brooks and Mystique Summers Madison going home on season 2 in 2nd and 3rd. So Nicole Paige Brooks is from Atlanta, Georgia. She is a star and an icon, and she's kind of one of those like memes of the franchise. Like she was only in 2 episodes. She didn't do anything that was like insanely memorable, but her just saying, "I'm Nicole Paige Brooks from Atlanta, Georgia," is like, it's like a copy pasta, like a short copy pasta, but something like that, where it's just like funny for no reason. And you know, she hasn't come back on the show. I don't know if she's still in Atlanta, Georgia. She's someone who I think if you say Nicole Paige Brooks, people know who you're talking about, but she's also been kind of the butt of many jokes on the show itself for being like not a superstar of the franchise. So she's someone who I think the curse affected Nicole Paige Brooks. And same with Mystique Summers Madison. You know, she got into that iconic fight with Morgan McMichaels. "I'm from Chicago, bitch, I'll whoop your ass." Like, iconic. But since the show, I haven't seen much about Mystique Summers Madison. I know she went on like a fitness journey. She looks incredible. Her drag looks, I think, a lot better and more like updated. Her makeup is much, much better than it was on the show. But when it comes to like the zeitgeist of Drag Race, I don't think Mystique Summers Madison comes up a lot. Season 3, I think Phoenix also kind of falls into the curse. She was 2nd out, and I feel like those early seasons, the early outs, they just aren't talked about, because I feel like they back then didn't get the boost that you get now if you're on. Like, Herschela Corjete went home first, and she's going to be fine. She's going to be touring. She's going to be doing all these things. But back then, I think unless you were like a Jujubee or a Raven or like people who made it to the end or like made big splashes, I don't think you really got many like opportunities from Drag Race. So someone like Phoenix, someone like Venus Delight, who went home first this season, I just don't think they were given like a platform to do anything with their moment being on Drag Race. Someone who did do a lot with their moment was Mimi I'm First. I'm gonna say she broke the curse. I think Mimi I'm First lifting up India Farah was enough for her to break the curse on its own. But then she randomly comes back to All Stars 1 and is a part of one of the most iconic untucked fights of all time. And so I think that also helps her break the curse. I think Mimi is the first one since its introduction that does not fall into this category of 2nd out and 3rd out cursed queens. But the 2nd and 3rd outs on season 4 unfortunately do LaShawn Beyond and the Princess. I like heard nothing about LaShawn Beyond for like years. Like, it was crickets. And then I heard she was coming out as a trans woman, or she had already been out. I wasn't sure. I found out she was a trans woman. She looked stunning, and I found out that she's a costume designer and makes these like incredible looks for tons and tons of queens. So amazing for her, but I think besides this isn't RuPaul's Best Friend race, I don't know if she's necessarily someone that comes up much. Same with the Princess. I think the Princess actually is one of the most forgotten, like probably top 10 most forgotten queens of the franchise, which sucks because she's that like alternative drag that you guys know I live for. And I know that she's still killing it. She's hosting. She's, doing just fine. But when it comes to Drag Race, I think that she's kind of removed at this point. So 2 more fallen victims to this curse. Okay, next we have Serena Chacha and Monica Beverly Hills on season 5. And it's kind of interesting because the first out on this season, Penetration, my Ohio sister, I think she's actually the most forgotten at this point. But if you would have said like 5 years ago, I think that they were both cursed. I think that they got like uncursed. RuPaul like unhexed them with like her magic wand by giving them spots on All Stars 6 and All Stars 8. But I still don't think they're like, huge facets of the Drag Race fandom or whatever. Like obviously Monica Beverly Hills has Not a Soaking Clock, which she can just like meme all the way to her grave at this point. It's so iconic. Serena Chacha, I think was more, I think people were more interested in like the Akira wig fight than like her coming back for season 6 of All Stars. So I'm gonna say like, even though they did both get their chance to come back, they were still cursed. You know what I mean? Like, because for a long time, I don't think many people were chatting about either of them unless it was for like everyone but Serena. So like, I think cursed. Season 6 is interesting because if you consider the 2 premiere first outs as both like first outs, then yes. But I want to say like who is out in the 2nd episode and the 3rd episode. Because like Kelly Mantle went home first, and then the second group came in, and then Magnolia Crawford went home like first, but it was second. So I'm gonna say Magnolia went home second, and Vivacious went home third. Magnolia Crawford cursed. She cursed herself, to be real. But Vivacious, I'm gonna say cursed, as I think the curse followed her as well. But she's one of those queens that, like, in recent years, the show has been, like, resurrecting the memory of. Like, I think 3 years ago, if you were like, you're Vivacious, I think a lot of Drag Race fans would be like, I might remember her, but, like, with her being on season 15 and things like that, I think that those are, like, good moments for her to, like, not necessarily come back, but to have, like, a moment to, like, reintroduce herself to the audience. So I think she was cursed, but some of these curses have been undone throughout the years, and I think that was one of them. Okay, up next we have Sasha Bell, now known as Frisbee Jenkins, and Jasmine Masters. So I'm gonna say they were both cursed. Sasha Bell, love her, thirst trap icon, one of the hottest people to ever be on the show, now rebranded as Frisbee Jenkins. Like, she's very removed from the show. I think she definitely was, victim of the curse. Jasmine, I think she was cursed because she had to uncurse herself. Like, the curse was put upon her, and through the power of social media, she was able to, like, undo the curse. But I think for a while, people did not like Jasmine on season 7, and I think she kind of just went right back to what she was doing, and it was kind of like crickets. Like, people followed her or whatever, but she wasn't, like, Jasmine Masters like we know her now. Like, it was her memeing herself and, like, doing all of these iconic videos online, and then coming back for All Stars 4 and doing what she did there.
But your breath smell like you have been doing nothing but eating on assholes. I need you to fix that. Don't eat no more assholes. Go see a dentist.
All of those things have made her iconic, but I think just from her original season and, like, the shorter period of time that, like, was after that, I think she was cursed. Season 8, 2 more cursed. We have Layla McQueen and Dax ! Layla McQueen is interesting because she's someone who, if she came back to the show, would immediately break the curse. She's someone who has literally been, like, asked to come back on All Stars year after year after year after year. Like, every year she's on the wish lists. And I don't know if it's just something she doesn't want to do, or if she's like, maybe production just doesn't really want her back, but her drag aesthetic has changed so much. She's also very hot out of drag, and I think that if she did come back, she would be, like, beloved. She's obviously been doing great stuff. She's been Bob's makeup artist for a long time, and through Bob has done stuff with the show, like makeup she did for Secret Celebrity Drag Race and things like that. But when it comes to, like, who are the most iconic queens of the show, I don't think Layla factors into that conversation. Dax, interesting week to bring this up now that Dax has, like, randomly decided to verbally go off on Maddie Morphosis. The show cursed her, and I'll just say the curse continues. We'll just leave it at that. This is Editing Derek, just here to note that this photo is iconic. Her cosplaying as Storm in Storm's Hellfire Gala look at the Comic-Con Hellfire Gala red carpet. She ate that. Season 9, we have Kimora Black and Charlie Hides. Now, Kimora Black, again, like she's someone, if she came back, I feel like she could uncurse herself. She did have that moment with Wait What, which was really cool, because I think that's more of like what I would want to see her do rather than like a competitive setting. Like, I feel like just watching her talk and think is like what I want from Kimora Black, not necessarily like competing on Drag Race. I think that the curse is there though. Like, and then Charlie Hides, I think that she's kind of one of those queens who I think was more successful before the show than after. I think the show actually kind of damaged her reputation a little bit. Because she was doing great on YouTube and, you know, doing stuff like she was doing great. And I think that kind of like put like a little like blemish on her like track record. And I just haven't heard much of her since. So I think she was cursed. Okay, next up we have Calorie Kardashian-Williams and Yua Hamasaki. So Calorie, she made the thumbnail. Girlfriend is cursed. Love her. She seems really, really nice. I think her drag has really improved since season 10, but on the list of most forgotten queens, I think Calorie would unfortunately be on that list. Now, Yua is kind of an interesting one because I think for her time on the show and then like right after, I would say she's cursed. But she uncursed herself almost immediately. Like, the second that she was doing bootleg reviews and all of these things, like, the second she started doing that, people were like, oh, this is what we wanted more of on season 10. And I remember when the spoilers were out for season 10, before the season was airing, Yua was supposed to get, like, 7th. And I remember there was a lot of, like, kind of, like, hype for her going in because of that. And I remember those spoilers for season 10 were, like, all wrong. Because it was, like, I think it was supposed to be Calorie out first, and then Dusty, and then Vanjie, and then I don't remember someone else, but like Yua was supposed to be in like 7th place. And so those, I think that really like the preseason spoilerinas were like excited for Yua. So because they thought she was gonna go far but didn't, there was still that excitement for her. So the second that she like did something with her platform, everyone was like, cool. So like, I'm gonna say like half a curse, because like I think she was kind of forgotten a little bit after her season, but then very quickly started her YouTube channel and now has like become a beloved queen of the franchise. Next up we have Kahana Montrese and Honey Davenport from season 11. Kahana, I think, is kind of like Monica or Serena Chacha, where like she was cursed, but I think she was asked back and then the curse was broken. Honey Davenport, I think, is one of the most, how do I put this without it sounding like mean? Like, I feel like she edged us. Like, I feel like going into the season, Honey was someone who was so successful in New York. And I feel like she has so much star power and so much raw talent. And she's someone who I wish she had done more. I want to see more from her. Like, I feel like if she did any type of like online stuff, like she really could blow up because she is so talented. Her looks are incredible. She has so much just like charisma. So I think she's someone who can uncurse herself. I want more of Honey Davenport, and I feel like we haven't gotten it since her season. Is that mean to say? I don't think it's mean. It's saying I love her. I wish she would do something. I wish she would, like, you know, show off how much talent she actually has. Someone who broke the curse, and I think this is kind of like beta Mirage. It is Rock'em Sakura on season 12. Now, going into the season, everyone was obsessed with Rock'em Sakura. She had this very unique aesthetic that was kind of mixing things that Kimchi and things that Trixie had done, but like morphing it and like making it even more like big. And so people are really excited for Rock'em Sakura. I was very excited for Rock'em Sakura. And in the 3 episodes that we had her, she did a fantastic job of showing off her personality, her charisma, her story, her talents. I think that immediately from episode 1, with the like farting thing, or I guess it was her episode 1, it was episode 2, her like farting thing, immediately she's seen as underrated, and I think that did her wonders. I think that if she had been like high in that episode or like safe in that episode, people would have been like, oh yeah, deserved anyway, moving on. But because she was robbed like from the jump of like a high placement, people were literally like, oh no, we need to stand this queen. This bitch is funny and she deserves more credit than she's getting from the judges. And I think that was so good for her reputation, just for her on the show in general. So, and I think since then, she's someone else who I thought maybe we would see more than we actually have, but like she has a YouTube channel, she's doing all kinds of stuff. She was asked to be on All Stars 8. So I think she's someone who we'll see back at some point, and I think from there, I think her star is just gonna continue to rise. And then third out was Nikki Doll, who I think was cursed a little bit, and then the second she got that Drag Race France job, the curse was broken. Like, I think she was someone that, like, on a season of one of the best casts, honestly, she's one of the more forgotten around that time. Like, when, like, season 13 was airing, like, people were still talking about Heidi, people were still talking about Jackie Cox and things like that. But I don't think people were still talking about Rock'em Sakura. But I don't think Nikki Doll came up in the conversation a ton. But now, 1 million followers on Instagram, hosts her own franchise, did Pete Davidson's makeup for SNL. Like, she had her own show where she was, like, going around the world doing shit. Like, she is a huge star. I love her. I remember loving her back then because she was one of those girls during quarantine that was always on Instagram Live. Her and Heidi and Jan and Rock'em. Like, I remember watching them every day. Like, as they would get in, they would paint, they would hang out, and Jada was in there. Like, those ended up being my favorite queens on the season because I really felt bonded to them through that experience, through the pandemic, and just sitting at home, having nothing to do but watch them on Instagram Live for 2 hours. So I think Nikki Doll was cursed, now is not. Next up, we have season 13, Joey J. I think she's cursed. I think she's someone else who the curse could become broken. She just needs like one opportunity, and I think that she could take it. Like, people still quote her like she's the first gay contestant, like all of those things. She's still like, I think you say Joey J, people know exactly who you're talking about, but she's not someone who I think comes up a lot in conversations about Drag Race. But she's someone who I would be interested to see come back for like an All Stars. I think that she had some of what she needed, but I think she needed a little bit more time to cook. And now I'd like to see her back. And next up we have Tamisha Iman. Now Tamisha, the curse was not applied to Tamisha Iman. She was never cursed. And that's because Tamisha Iman is a bitch who will never let herself be cursed. We all remember the Tamisha Iman network. We remember the Shoegate. We remember like all of these things, Slidegate. Like, she immediately was just everywhere. She was the original Everything Everywhere All at Once. And I love her for that. I think that now, like, since that whole thing, I don't know what she's up to. I don't hear her come up. So maybe she's like, maybe the curse is delayed. But she's someone else. If she came back, I think everyone would be like excited just to see the chaos that she brings. And then we have season 14, who we had Alyssa Hunter and Orion Story. And these ones are kind of easier to do because, like, they're still fresh. These girls haven't been given enough time to get, like, the opportunities like Serena Cha-Cha did and, like, Mimi I'm First did. Like, these queens are still just a couple years off their season, and it's easy to say, like, yes, does the fandom adore them? Are they one of the stars of their season? Or, like, I think people are starting to forget about them. We'll see if they get a chance to redeem themselves on All Stars. Like, that's kind of, it's a yes or a no. I think it's a no for both of these right now. Alyssa Hunter, I could very easily see come back for an All Stars and have kind of like I could see her having like almost like a La La Ree run where people liked her a lot in her original season, and she probably went home a little bit sooner than people wanted. But then we get exactly what we need from her on All Stars, and she becomes like a huge star. So I see that for Alyssa Hunter, but right now I feel like I see her more out of drag on her like Instagram and Twitter than in drag. So who knows? Who knows what the future holds for Miss Hunter, robbed queen. And then Orion Story, cursed. I love Orion. I think her drag is so weird and bizarre and exactly what I love. I just don't know what she's up to. So I think that's warranted to say she's cursed at the moment. Okay, up next we have Princess Poppy and Sugar from season 15. Princess Poppy was cursed, now uncursed. I think that like the running bit of her quitting drag was like funny for a little bit. She was able to kind of get people talking for a little bit. But I think after her season, it was kind of like, Okay, anyway, and it wasn't until recent where she's been like wilding out. Like she wilded out at the Emmys. She was been doing weird shit everywhere. Her Instagram is insane. She is basically just the ultimate shit poster of life. And now people are like living. But I think it's more for like the theater of it all than for like the fact that it's Princess Poppy. So I think she's cursed, but if she continues on the path she's on now, I could see that curse being broken. And then Sugar, no, not cursed. She's fine. I think it was dumb to do Snatch Game so early. I think she would have lasted a little bit longer, and I think that we needed just like maybe 2 more episodes with the twins for that storyline to feel complete. But we got it a little bit, the rug was kind of swept out from under us a little bit too quick with that. But Sugar's fine. She's on Give It To Me Straight. That's what really matters. And that brings us to season 16, where I can really talk about the meat and potatoes of this video. Mirage. So beloved. And not robbed in any way, but people don't care, and they're immediately like... There's times where someone like Rock'em Sakura, who people see as robbed, and it's because they were done dirty on their season. And then they, the fandom is like obsessed with them and are like, this queen should have went home instead of her. Or, like, this queen she should have made it longer than this, whatever. Then you have Mirage, who like I think fairly went home. Like, it was very fair. I think everyone can agree that it was a very fair elimination, but people don't care. And they're like, I don't care. This queen should have gone home. This queen should have gone. Why are you here? Why are you here and Mirage is not? I don't care. She deserved to go home, but I don't think she should have. It's like, they're willing to just look over logic because they want a queen here so bad. That is, I think, very rare, and I hope it's something that Mirage does something with, because it's lightning in a bottle. It's very, as you've seen on this list, almost everyone on this list is someone that the fandom very quickly moved on from, and, maybe they'll pop up on social media, or they'll do something funny here and there, but, like, for the most part, we've all moved on. Mirage could be the next, like, Kylie Sonique Love, where, like, she goes home really early, doesn't do much on her season, but comes back, wins the whole thing, becomes a huge star. Wins the whole thing, becomes a huge star. Like, I see that trajectory for her. She is so charismatic, and I don't think she knows it. Like, she doesn't come off as someone who, like, knows her star power. I think maybe now watching herself, she can kind of visualize it, see it, and harness it better. And I hope we get that from her, because she is the moment. She's such a bitch. The boys all know.
I'm kind of a bitch. Yeah, the boys all know.
And then Amanda Tori meeting. It's, looking at this list, I have this all written out. Looking at this list, and you can see how many got highlighted. Not many. Of all the people on this list, very few of them have an actual storyline. Like, Rock'em Sakura, we learned things about her life, but that's not like a story arc. Tamisha Iman had a fight with Candy and then went home the next episode. Like, it was a storyline, but it just didn't really go anywhere. It was kind of like over before it really got there. Jasmine Masters, her storyline was hating, Violet and Pearl. So it's like, okay, that's not really a storyline. That's just like what you were doing while you were there. A mandatory meeting, she got a storyline. She got a storyline. And it was like expansive. Like, it was in the episodes, it was in Untucked, it was every week, it was in the promo for the next week. Everyone was talking about it on social media. She's in the thumbnails on RuPaul's Drag Race YouTube. Like, she is everywhere. I think this first chunk of the season, the storyline is Plain Jane and Amanda. They've been the main characters. They've been getting confessionals. They've been all of these things. So I think that's why it feels so weird that she's gone now, because there's so many queens left who I feel like we don't know. I don't think the show's told us much about Megami. They haven't told us much about Maya. They haven't told us much about Tsunami. Like, there's so many queens left, and I feel like I don't know half of them, but I really knew Amanda, and I really loved Amanda, and they made me care so much about Amanda. So now that she's gone out of nowhere, it's like, damn. I think more than anyone else on this entire list, Amanda's the most shocking of these eliminations. Because even queens like Rock'em Sakura, who were beloved, like, we knew immediately the judges didn't care about them. Like, from episode 1 that she was in, the judges did not like what she was doing. So I think that it was kind of, like, the writing was on the wall a little bit about, like, what was going to happen for her. But, like, Amanda, I think that there was so much worry about her going home in the ball because of her fashion, and she got through that, and I think she was safe as fuck in the ball. And everyone was kind of like, oh, so like we're in for a season of Amanda. And then she did great in the RDR Live challenge. And we're like, oh, Amanda's on an upswing. She's like starting to do really well in these challenges. And everyone stopped worrying about her because she has the narrative padding. She has the storyline. She's doing well in the challenges. There's no reason to worry about Amanda. We're just enjoying our time with her. And then to have it literally ripped apart the second that we're not expecting it in an episode that she's like, oh, this is what I do. You guys have seen me perform. I'm a great performer. We're not worried. She's not worried. She still went home. So I think both kind of the suddenness of it, like, I think if she went home like next week, like let's say we hit like the peak of the storyline in this episode with her and Jane. Next episode, they're kind of like, you know, coming to terms, like, you know, getting over things. She flops the challenge, she goes home. I don't think anyone would be like, oh my gosh, like aghast. I think it's the fact that her storyline still felt like it was ongoing. There was no conclusion to it. And she had been doing really well. I think that that's what really made the impact and why people are rallying around her. I also think that her letting us in, you know, talking about her transition, talking about her divorce on her social medias and stuff, like that's letting us know who she is. Like we're seeing so much of her on the episode and then we're learning so much about her online. And it's making her feel like a fully realized person to us. Because a lot of the times these queens come off as characters because we don't get to know much about them. They're just there for a fight and they go home. Or they're just window dressing. They don't really get anything and they go home. And it's like, okay, whatever. But Amanda was, I think, one of the most fully fleshed out queens from any of these seasons that we've seen go home this early. She was in 4 episodes, which is like more than most of the queens on this list who were out like episode 2, episode 3. But I still think with even just that little bit more time, there was still so much to love about her and so much to become attached to. And I remember just getting all kinds of texts that day, like, no, Amanda went home. And I'm like, yeah, I know, girl. I thought she was going to be like 8th place. I was not mentally prepared for this. But again, I think she's going to be just fine. I think that she has a lovely spot open for her on like All Stars 11. Give her a couple years to really hone in, move back to New York, figure out what her drag like really, really is, polish it up a little bit. She's going to be top 4 on All Stars 11. And it's going to be a wonderful storyline. She's going to be one of the most beloved queens of the entire franchise. Like, I see that for her. The hour-and-a-half episode helps because there's so much more time they can give to people who are out early. Because like if this was like an hour episode, why would we care about someone who goes home second when we need to really, you know, you need to get to know the top 4, the top 5, the top 6. Like so much more time would be given to them. But because they have an hour and a half for 14 episodes, they can really take their time to like make you care about everybody. We knew so much about Hershey before she left. You know, Mirage was able to be like a huge fan favorite and she was only in 3 episodes. And that's why I'm not worried about queens like Megami or Maya, who really haven't gotten like a chance to shine, because it seems like the editors really know what they're doing this season. And I'm really enjoying this season so far. So I'm so excited to see how it goes. I'm so excited to see like who's going to be at the end. I have no idea. I love being unspoiled. I should have done this way sooner. And if you want to hear all my thoughts, you can listen to the Rigged Recap where me and Kayla Says every week talk about the new episode. And I will also have a Rigged Recap going for UK versus the World 2 with Black Boys. Rigged Recap on all streaming platforms. Link will be in the description below. But that's all for today. I just wanted to talk about kind of like what this season did differently versus past seasons for these early out queens. And I think it's a good direction to go in. I think that this hour and a half is like perfection. I wish we had it last season the entire time. I think that this is going to be, we're 5 episodes in, and this is like, I think, top tier Drag Race. If it stays on the path it's on now, I think we might have an all-timer season on our hands. So I'm very excited. I love this cast, and I'm loving this season. So I'm sure there'll be more videos here on the channel about it as it continues and more shit happens. I want to do a video about Plain Jane at some point, but I just want to see where the storyline goes before I like really dive into that. And I know Kayla is putting out a Plain Jane video coming out really soon. So follow Kayla Says for that. Subscribe to me if you are not already. We are so close to 75. We just hit 70K. Thank you so much for 70K. And y'all know when I hit 75K, I will be getting up into drags. So subscribe if you are not already. Help us hit that goal. and you'll never miss a video when I post about season 16 or the rigor of UK5, which is almost done. It's almost done. It's taking longer because there's a lot to talk about, and I want it to be really good. So UK5 is coming, unrigor of UK5, more season 16 shit. We got a lot to talk about. I have another video coming out soon that I'm really excited for that we'll talk about in the UK5 episode because it requires your help. Big things on the channel. We're back in business. I'm so excited to be back. I steamed this thing 3 times, but there's still little squigglies. It's fine. Thank you all so much for watching. The links to all of my social medias are in the description below, and I'll catch you all in the next one.